All right, everybody. We are about to begin, and I just wanted to say a few words first. First and foremost, thank you very much for coming tonight. We are very excited for tonight's panel, all about real estate in the Hamptons. If you haven't met me personally, my name is Chris Beninati. I'm the Vice President of Hamptons Networking Group and the co-founder of the Quincy Club. For those who aren't familiar with H&G, it is a more structured and professional networking community. We have one professional per seat, per industry seat, and we meet every Thursday morning at 7 a.m. in Hampton Bays. With H&G, we've seen how valuable it can be to have one professional representing each industry and building those deeper one-to-one relationships. From that, we also saw an opportunity to expand that reach, to bring together experts from different industries, create more collaboration, and broaden the community here in the Hamptons. For us, the Quincy Club really grew out of what we learned through H&G, the power of bringing the right people together in a very intentional way. That's how the Quincy Club was born. That's what we have here in the room tonight. Tonight is the beginning of what we hope will be a series of conversations like this one, bringing together industry experts to share their knowledge, showcase their thought leadership, and create opportunities to connect and collaborate. The Hamptons is such a unique and nuanced community, and we think that there's a lot of value in getting the right people in the right room, which is exactly what we're excited to continue to do through the Quincy Club. We're really excited that you're here and that you are all a part of it. We want to have a lot of planned, and ways for everybody to get involved. As we always mention, this is about you. This is about the membership. This is about collaboration. This is about really highlighting all of us here. If you haven't already, please see Ashley tonight from Flying Point Media, who did a great job putting this all together. Lori as well. Let's give it a round of applause for her and the entire team, Michael and everybody have really worked hard. If you have specific questions about the Quincy Club, membership, and events, please come see me or anybody after, especially our leadership team from H&G. We really put a lot of effort into these events, hard work, and we want you guys to really take advantage of the opportunities we're creating for you. For tonight's panel, we have a series of 5 questions of different topics. I'll ask the question, and I will allow each member to have 2 minutes to answer the question as it pertains to their sector within the real estate market, okay? So before we start, I want to introduce our panel members tonight, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and what they do one by one, starting with Mr. Michael Peterson.
So I'm imagining everybody in their underwear because I heard that makes you feel more comfortable. Michael Peterson, I'm with Brown Harris Stevens, a real estate agent. This is my seat in the group, and Chris and myself founded this group with Brian Champagne and a few others almost 4 years ago. And just to be real brief, we were 4 people sitting in a basement kind of sharing notes and trying to figure things out, and it's morphed really quickly. Now I think we're at 35 people, which is great for H&G.
Absolutely.
And that's our excitement. So real estate in the Hamptons, purchases, sales, and just any inquiries, that's me.
Thank you, Mike. Dan?
How's everybody doing? Dan Cowan with Hartford Funding, all residential financing, looking for the most creative options. We work with first-time home buyers, investors, people looking to relocate. We're licensed in 33 of the 50 states. Joined H&G about 2.5 years ago. Haven't looked back once. It's been an awesome experience. So super excited to give you guys some more insight on the Hamptons real estate.
Hi, everybody. Rick McMaster. I am the real estate investor of the group, so it's really exciting to be here and see everybody. It's going to be good. I'm going to enjoy this a lot.
Thank you, Rick.
Hello, H&G and guests. My name is Chad Bredas. I'm an attorney with Van Cott Ebrahimi. I'm a real estate attorney. I focus on investing and how to buy real estate in the Hamptons and the best way to get a return on that investment, protect your legal assets, and try to make it as tax deferred as possible in conjunction with some CPAs and other professionals.
Thank you, panel. So one of our topics today that we're going to talk about and break down is really around planning and strategy. So the planning and strategy, we have a lot of people that want to buy in the Hamptons, but really we have to ask ourselves, when is the best time to loop in each professional from this panel? So let's start with you, Mike. When is the best time for you to be looped into somebody's dream of buying their home? Maybe it's buying a summer home, whatever it may be. When is the right time to bring each of you, this question is for each of you, into the mix here? Mike, you want to kick us off?
Sure. So I guess in today's world, everybody's got a computer, everybody's got access to information. So they're all looking. By the time they get to me, it's really, they've done a whole lot of research on, where they think the market is and what they think value is. And so I guess from my perspective, I'm usually the first person that that folks will engage with. Usually the first person that they'll ask questions of, and then my job is then to immediately ask questions like, do you need financing? What is your game plan? Are you an investor? Are you going to be, what are you going to use this for? Is this going to be something that you'll share with your family? Is this something that you're looking to flip? Which is something we in this group really focus on quite a bit. Then do you have an attorney? If not, I can absolutely recommend the single best attorney that I've ever dealt with in real estate. And there are a lot of good ones. Chad's great. So that's kind of then for me, the next process is really just kind of going through, like, are you I joke about this a lot in when we're together on a Thursday morning, but people come to me all the time with $4 million visions and a $2 million budget. How do you bridge that gap? What's the delta? And how do you bridge that delta? So it's a lot of understanding, okay, well, can I bring in Joe and his team to understand what the costs are going to be to do renovations? I always get really frustrated, and I'll run out of time in a second, but I always get frustrated with agents that will sit there and say, oh, just move these walls and do that. Like, immediately the answer from everybody is, how much is that going to cost? So to have this group is just, I always say thank you every week, but thank you everybody. It's like, that's how I want to engage with folks.
Amazing. Thank you, Mike. Dan, for you, obviously bringing in the realtor, but then bringing in how are you going to pay for this?
So
Let's hear it
yeah,
from
well,
that point
that
of
was a
view.
little close. Yeah, most of the time I'll get introduced through the realtor, but we typically try and break that point of contact around 3 to 4 months or 3 to 5 months prior to the purchase. That is, they're planning to, hey, we want to buy something this summer so we can use it all summer long. We usually want to make those introductions, November, December. That way they can prepare with what documents they need, what kind of financing options they're going to go with. Because sometimes if you're going to be buying these properties out here in the Hamptons, they're above certain price points, and you have to either, if you're going to do a conventional loan, those timelines, a jumbo loan takes a little bit longer than a traditional purchase because, it has to go through additional underwriting. There's sources of larger deposits and, down payments. You have to source all of that. So typically the jumbo loans will run a little bit longer of a time, but we have non-QM products, which is non-qualified mortgages, where you can close on a property if it's an investment property or something like that in 3 to 4 weeks. But you still want to get introduced in the process about 3 to 4 months prior to when you're looking to make that final purchase.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, if you can. Sometimes depends on your negotiations and stuff. It could take 6 months, 8 months after you've been approved, just trying to find that specific property. The Hamptons is a competitive market, so you could be submitting offers and counter offers and going back and forth bidding wars for 2 months on the same property. So usually 3 to 4 months is the introductory time.
Thank you, Dan.
It has to be really Mike that would be the first one, so it would be your realtor that would be the front person that's going to be there. Next in line is going to be you to tell me what this is going to cost me to be able, what's it's going to be out of pocket? Am I going to pay for it entirely, or am I going to be financing it with you? So that's the way that I do it. And then it's also bringing you in, Chad, to make sure that there's no legalities with this. We've had instances where we've looked at a piece of property, we went through the whole gambit, they accepted our bid, and then all of a sudden later on we found out that it was actually going into foreclosure, and they had no right to actually have it on the market. So that was a bit of a letdown, big letdown. But it's a collective group, so everybody in H&G really has a specific part in this whole process. It's not just the group that's here right now. We would be bringing in the plumbers, the electricians, we would bring in the carpenters, we would bring in the window people. It would be everybody in H&G.
Thank you, Rick.
All right, so I really get involved depending on what the client wants to do and how they want to do it. My job is to remain fluid. My job's to communicate. My job's to tell the client, hey, you know, legally we can't do this. Hey, here's the risk if you want to take it this way. Clients who finance with hard money, I typically talk to them before they even talk to a realtor. The most traditional way is what we're describing here. It goes, you know, realtor, finance, and then me once a memo comes out and I draft a contract of sale. But out here in the Hamptons, it's a little different. Sometimes we have to source money. Sometimes we have to do a lot of hard money documents and understanding and due diligence. We have to start LLCs, start corporations, make sure all the papers are in order. So for me, it's really focused on communication, where the investor wants to go, and how they want to go and go about doing it.
Thank you, panel. That was great. Our second topic that we're going to discuss with everybody is around the budget. Obviously, the budget is very important. So what is the true cost of buying Hamptons real estate? That's something that we should really discuss, right? What is the true cost? So we can go down the panel one by one again. But Mike, why don't you dig a little bit deeper into that, and everybody go into a little bit deeper about the true cost of buying out here.
So I guess it's a big education process for most buyers when they first are starting to get involved out here. If you're first time buying in the Hamptons, nobody understands what the community preservation fund is. That's usually a shocker for a lot of folks. So it's 2.5%. 2% goes into a fund to buy back and retire land. At this point, the CPF is retired about 16,000 acres out here. And then another 0.5% was just added on about 2 years ago, which is for low-income housing, which we desperately need to help alleviate traffic problems. So that's a shocker for a lot of people just out of the gate. But it's just understanding, all the real estate conveyance costs, and then thinking about in terms of if they're getting a mortgage, starting to engage on the costs involved there. I think in going back to the group, having people that can show up from our group to help me, get people across the finish line so they understand what the costs are when you're buying, especially a fixer-upper, unless it's brand new construction, you're going to want to do certain things. And people from the city are really scared. Most of our buyers are financial services, whatever, coming from Manhattan, and they're coming out here and they just don't know, what they don't know. And so having people to handhold them through that process has been a huge win for myself and I think for the group, just to get people across the finish line to understand those costs.
Thank you, Mike. Dan, the question is, or the topic is budget, but what is the true cost of buying Hamptons real estate?
Yeah, Mike brought up a good point, is that CPF, the Community Preservation Fund, is a huge thing because a lot of times if you don't know if you're purchasing east of Riverhead Township, like Mike said, there's a 2.5% closing cost in addition. So if you're buying a house that could be listed at $2 million, now you have an additional almost a little over $50,000 in additional closing costs that if you were purchasing a house $2 million just west of Riverhead Township, you wouldn't have to pay that. New York State mansion tax, any properties over $1 million, you're gonna have to pay an additional 1% into your closing costs that goes to New York State. So that's another thing you have to be prepared for, but closing costs can obviously vary depending on which loan products you're gonna be using. If you go with a non-QM, if you're looking to get some creative financing because you don't have traditional W-2s and pay stubs and you're looking to use like some of your business income, or if you have different sources. There's additional closing costs with those. However, you're able to use funds, whereas your business may show that it's clearing $400,000 a year, but you as an individual only pay yourself $30,000. You're not buying a house for $2 million, making $30,000 a year, but your business is bringing in $400,000. We're able to get you that creative financing. However, sometimes the closing costs may vary, but at least you're able to be eligible to get the property. Yeah, and there are ways to do 10% down, or most of the time 20% down will save you the most.
Thank you, Dan.
So some of the hidden costs that you could really not even imagine are what you're going to be doing after you purchase it. So you've got the purchase price is your one thing, but then you have the carrying cost of the actual house itself, which can be astronomical. If you're going to be doing home improvements, that's one other aspect of it. You've got your taxes that you're going to be paying on a yearly basis. You have to factor that into what you're going to be paying, plus your mortgage. You're going to be doing your maintenance. That's going to be your pool, your lawn, your windows, your cleaning person. You've got all these other things, and then you have to think about, are you going to be doing this as a rental home? And that's a whole different bracket, because then you're bringing in another group of people. But then at the end, you have to really realize the fact that you're going to be doing something that's going to be either for you or it's going to be for somebody else. And can you carry this for the next 2 to 5 years? And you have to do that math, because you have to think down the line.
Thank you, Rick.
That's great insight. Thank you. Yeah. I think I'll take this opportunity to express that I'm the attorney and I need a new boat and truck. So the cost is going to be really high. No, I'm kidding.
Chadbreedis.com.
Right? I think we've really stressed a lot of the hidden costs. I think closing costs are coming into that. I think broker fees. We see carrying costs. We see CPF, title closer costs, your title insurance. All of that stuff is hidden fees. I always tell people, who are getting mortgages, take away about 10% and make sure you show up with that in cash at the table. You're also going to have adjustments at the table. If it's fuel, oil, propane, you're going to have to make adjustments for those. You're going to have to make adjustments for prepaid taxes. So there's lots of costs. It's not something, to take lightly. You've got to be prepared. I like getting involved as early as possible because my retainer agreement spells out all these costs right up front. And I have managed to avoid a lot of situations with that where they're like, oh my God, I have to show up with another $80,000?
That's the reason why everybody kind of gets involved at the same time. It's not just one individual person. Everybody is in this collective group. It's a phone call. You just
Everybody
have a
plays
big
that
chat.
role.
Yeah.
Also, I want a boat.
Let's keep the microphone back to Chad GPT. Our next topic is going to be about restrictions, and we'll leave it to the attorney to make things a little bit boring in the room. So when investing in the Hamptons, what is something that buyers overlook? Sort of like what we're talking about. What's something that they miss, that they don't know, that you can go a little bit more into detail that you've seen?
Well, lately, what we've been focused on a lot at the firm is foreign investments. Foreign firms, German, French firms, French, foreign LLCs, corporations, trusts buying American property. And selling American property. And so there's a lot of extra restrictions, extra money pulled to the side by governments who are doing that. It's, repeat the question?
When the topic is
the
restrictions, but when
that's right.
investing into the Hamptons market,
Right.
what's something that most buyers are really overlooking? Sort of touching on what we talked about.
Right, absolutely. So more restrictions. You've got the zoning boards, you've got the village boards. If you're planning on building or changing any of the formats, you've got. I think the biggest restriction in the Hamptons is your neighbor. I would say that boundary line agreements, understandings, pyramid laws, that all has to do with your neighbor. So really when you're out here, knowing your broker who's been selling everything on the street, knowing who he's put, knowing hey, this development's coming, hey, this is going to happen, that's a very important key to this. Because they're really in on the restrictions, the neighborhood, and to me, it's the people you're moving next to.
So true.
Thank you.
Repeat that again. Sorry.
The topic is restrictions, and we're talking about when you're investing in the Hamptons, and Rick, it would be great to get your point of view on this. What is something that buyers overlook?
So everybody has a tendency to think that when they buy the house, they can do whatever they want. And there are huge restrictions that
Great
we
point.
have to abide by. It could be a 10-foot setback, it could be a 15-foot setback, it could be a 20-foot setback. So this knowledge really has to be something that you're aware of in the beginning. You just can't dump in a shed, you can't put a pool in where you want it. It has to be going before the building inspector. You have to submit this paperwork. That's item number one. Going forward, there's, as you were saying, it's really about getting to know your neighbor, because if your neighbor puts up a roadblock for you, you're screwed. No pun intended, but you really are. And you have a tendency to, we as people, if you're not friendly to your neighbor, you're gonna have problems. The other person to really get a, I don't wanna say handle on, but you have to become friends with the building inspectors and everybody in the building department, because this is who is going to make sure that everything goes properly. The other stumbles that you're gonna have are the ZBA and the ARB. Those are people that they have an opinion, and it doesn't mean it's your opinion. I had an example in Southampton here recently where she thought that what I wanted to do was very passé. That is not a bit of language that she's allowed to use, because if I want to paint my house pink, you can't tell me I can't. Okay, and if you tell me that all the houses want to be pink, I don't want that, but you can't tell me that. So she had to be
Right.
corrected by her attorney.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question again? No, I'm just kidding. I think we got it by the
Question
third
is,
time.
For the
now.
third time.
No, so with some restrictions and things to know about when purchasing out there, like again with that CPF, the conservation, land conservation Peconic Bay tax is huge to not overlook. Something else is the certain townships are looking into restricting the short-term rentals, so you stay up to date with those, because I know they're always looking to pass that, because they don't want partiers just here for the weekend. If if there's somebody's gonna be renting the property for 2 months or a full month, that's different, but they don't want those weekend partiers. FEMA, the flood zones, Suffolk County is looking into restructuring that, so that's definitely something when you're purchasing and you're getting the surveys and title reports to be prepared for. Certain things are shifting. You may have to get flood insurance, whereas a couple years ago, if you were to buy that same property, you maybe wouldn't have had to. So that's just something, restrictions that they're always changing. So that's why it's important to make sure you're constantly in contact, or if something, just because you purchased something a year and a half, 2-3 years ago, you can't just automatically assume, just because it's in the same area or you're using a similar contract, that everything's going to go the exact same, because they're always changing the guidelines every year. So it's important to make sure you're using professionals that are always up to date with the newest guidelines.
If there was only a group of people that met on a weekly basis
Yeah.
for the benefit of the community, it'd be great. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so my turn?
Michael, yes, restrictions. When you're
It's all
investing in the Hamptons,
It's all
what is
good.
something most of your buyers don't even realize?
So there's just to be, a lot of topics have been discussed already, but things people don't take into consideration are things like noise. Are you close to an airport light? Are you close to a school? I've had deals fall apart because people didn't realize until the 11th hour there's a cemetery, that dates back 400 years on the corner of the property. Like, I'll never buy that. Like, me, it doesn't bother me, but so those
It's
are
quiet over there, but
great neighbors. Yeah, absolutely, and great for Halloween parties. But the so I think those are issues. I think the group's kind of covered most of
Sure.
it at this point, so I'll give you,
so
give you back your
yeah,
time.
no, that's great. Thank you, Paddle. That was great insight. And the next topic that we're going to be discussing is technology. So how has technology affected the real estate process? You can loop in artificial intelligence and so forth. But Mike, let's start with you as you have the mic, but also from your standpoint, how has technology really affected the business at large?
Again, so everybody's got a computer at this point. Everybody can do their own research. I think people, I think technology's actually been really beneficial for me recently, especially in light of it's so simple. But ChatGPT, I spent an hour today kind of looking at a property that I had my colleagues. I showed something to my colleagues, and they were like, "Oh, that's horrible. I would never pay X for that." I said, "Well, look what the neighborhood is. Something that's trading now at asking $1.5 million," and I was like, "This is a great deal." And everything on the street's trading at $4 million, but it's horrible looking. And then, Joe and the group and others have said, we like ugly because ugly can be fixed. And it's
Yep.
so true. So then I spent the next half hour kind of putting it, changing it around, changing the facade, all of a sudden, it went from an ugly duckling to this modern house, and without moving any external walls. There's a cost to it, but, the question is, if you can buy that house for, listed at $1.5 million, get it for $1.4 million, put in $400,000 that this group would turn and look at, getting away from technology a little bit, but I think AI has been a great bridge for that, so you can kind of see, what the end product should be, and then you have to figure out what the delta is. Like so I buy for $1.4 million, put in 4, am I getting 2.5 on it, on that? Is it worth doing? And I'll argue all day long, putting money into, fixer-uppers is the way to go. So I think that's where technology has been incredibly beneficial. Aside from that, we still show up every day and hold people's hands as they walk through houses and explain,
Yeah.
the process, and it's still very
Balancing act.
Yeah, it's tactile. You have to go and see and smell and hear, but that's where I think technology's been helpful for us.
Perfect. Dan, how has technology affected the real estate process, obviously, from your point of view?
Yeah, so technology and AI have made our jobs immensely more structured in a sense of being able to expedite some of the processes behind the scenes. Our turnaround time for closings, as far as receiving the contract to getting to the closing table, may have taken on average 30 to 35 days. We've implemented systems now with the underwriters and the processors for document review using AI to just upload all the pay stubs, let it formulate, like, instead of having to do all this manually or in our systems semi-manually, having to import the numbers, and it'll do the calculations for you. But now we just have to drop in the images of the pay stubs, and it's more often than not, it is spot on to the penny for what we need as far as qualifying purposes. So it's cut down our closing time by at least 10 days. So now our closings are closer to 20 to 25 days. We closed one the other day. This is rare, but in 18 days, or from 17 days from getting the contract to closing, we were cleared. We were cleared on the 17th day, but scheduling conflict, it closed on the 18th day. But as far as marketing, it's unmatched, the technology and the AI for what it can do as far as our marketing team and just being able to get posts and get information out there on the process it's been, immensely supportive for us. Another thing which is huge is appraisals. So we've got this system now where they're tracking all of the sales that have been done in specific areas and whatnot. So our underwriters are actually getting appraisal waivers. So depending on how much, your debt to income ratio and what you're putting as far as a down payment, we're able to just waive the appraisal completely just because of these programs and softwares they're using that are able to track hundreds of sales in that given area. Where now, not only is it cutting down 4 or 5 days of the process, it's also saving the buyer a few hundred or sometimes thousands of dollars not having to pay for that.
Yep.
We're even getting approval all the time for a desktop appraisal, which is somewhat new. We're seeing where they don't have to go there and physically inspect the property. They just do essentially a drive-by saying, hey, the property hasn't burnt down. It still looks, it's just making sure the structure's there. And without the implement of AI and some of these programs that are doing behind the scenes, we wouldn't have those tools.
Thank you, Dan.
Longer than 2 minutes.
Yeah, it was. I forgot about the appraisal part.
Where's the well, we're all excited about it. You've already touched base on a lot of stuff. I don't know if this thing, yeah, there it is. But we've already touched base on a lot of what we're talking about. But one of the things that the AI is doing is it's all of our due diligence lists have shrunk down immensely. What would used to take us days to do can be done in hours. So as you're saying, with you're able to close a deal with 10 days less. That's just because of AI. The one thing that it does not do is it doesn't replace you, it doesn't replace you, and it doesn't replace you, because I need you to give your input. I need your physical input to be able to judge if this is a good deal or not. I need you to be able to tell me that, yes, this is something that is valuable and I'm gonna make money in the end. And you're the one that's gonna tell me if it's a piece of garbage. And that's what I really need. So when I'm looking at something to invest in, what people don't really realize is that this is part of the obstacles.
Thank you.
I love technology. It's my favorite thing in the world when a client comes to me and says, I got this off ChatGPT. I'm like, yes, I'm making my boat money. That's what
If
we're
you
going
haven't
for.
all heard, Chad really wants a boat.
But on another flip side, it's helped my practice immensely personally by being able, I have a printer in my car out there hooked up to a hotspot that I can do contracts right here tonight if somebody wants it. If Mike comes up to me and he goes, hey, I got an investor who wants this, sheep, I'll be like, okay, we can put the contract right now. We can do it right now. And I love being able to do that. I love negotiating on the road. I love that technology has allowed me to become mobile, to go to homes, to talk to investors, to go to businesses, and to be there and be able to do my job 100% on the road. So I'm a big fan.
Amazing. Free printing services tonight.
ChatGPT in the house.
So our last topic for tonight is really for each panelist to share a personal case study. So for example, our question is, what is one of the biggest hurdles or problems that you have faced in the project that you have helped get over the finish line? We know this is a near and dear topic for all of you, so what's a hurdle that you have overcome?
I think
Just
this is
name
gonna-
one.
Mold. So mold is everywhere. It's in this restaurant right now. It's pervasive. I know, it's hard to believe. It's a really nice restaurant though, and there's very little. But I've had deals fall apart because people don't understand it. They don't understand the remediation that, can be done. And then I've got a deal right now where someone in the group is actually very keenly interested investing in a house because it is riddled with mold. It's like, hey, that's my my solution. Like, that's what I can do. So, I had a lady that wanted to buy a home and again had aspirations of a $5 million house, and this house could be had. It started at 5, and we got the deal done at 2.8. And it was but it was riddled with mold, and she was so fearful, and finally understood the process of what can be done and how easily it can be remedied, and guaranteed. So that was probably not what you were expecting.
Thank you.
So was like a personal story about how we overcame an obstacle?
Yeah, overcame an obstacle with a buyer that you found a way to make it work.
Yeah. So actually, just recently, shameless plug on Mike Hampton's podcast when we were talking, I explained this story. So I had a buyer last October who was looking to purchase a investment property in East Hampton, and depending on the program that they were using, they needed 20% down payment minimum, but if you can get 25, it drops the rate a significant margin. So he has other properties in Florida and whatnot, so he forgot about this Peconic Bay tax, the additional 2.5% of his closing costs, so he didn't end up having that disposable money to get that extra 5% down payment. So what we did is the math on taking out money from his condo in Miami. He had to purchase property in Florida. And with the difference with that monthly payment and using with the cash we took out of that to put a larger down payment on the East Hampton property, he ended up saving himself a few $100s, and he was able to get this property overall. But just being able to look through that additional creative option of pulling money out of one property to make the overall payment of the two much lower, compared to just saying, no, you don't have the additional 5% down payment. Sorry, this is your payment. This is what you're stuck with.
And Dan's group is actually really, really good at that creative financing.
So there's too many to really describe, but I'll use the house that I'm working on right now as an example because it's a pretty good one. There's multiple things that I've experienced on this one. First is the pyramid law. My western boundary is only 10 feet from the property line. The eastern boundary, I think, is 16 feet, maybe a little bit more than that. But what the town gives you in a situation as that, your property line, when you're looking at this, typically a pyramid law is 30 feet above, and it goes to the property line. You draw a line from that marker on the edge up 30 feet, and then you go over to the other side of the property line. That's the area that you're allowed to work in. So in my instance, I was way over what I wanted to do to put a second floor onto this house. But they give you a reprieve by 5 feet because of the narrowness of the property. So that meant that my property line didn't start at grade, it was 5 feet above, which was a lot easier to be able to go through the process that we had. It was also making it a little bit easier on my neighbors as well. In doing so, we tried to exemplify what the neighbor had and also bring that into the house that we are doing right now. to make it so that it fits the neighborhood pretty well. The other obstacle was going before the ZBA, and she did not like the fact that I wanted to do a metal roof. And I said to her, what would you like me to do? And then she made a comment and said, we'd like it to be shingled. And then I said, and this is only for the pool house. And so she said, well, we'd like you to shingle it. And I said, well, what type of shingle? What does it want to be? You know, would you like asphalt or would you like wood shingles? And she says, oh, wood. And I said, okay. And I said, then that means you're going to want me to do this on the main house. And they said, oh, no, we didn't say that. We didn't say that at all. But you implied that. So by listening to what they're saying, sometimes you have to understand that this is the right path to go down. You have to go down the right path.
Thank you. Chad?
I face hurdles and provide solutions constantly. That is my job as an attorney, a solution provider. I would say the number one thing that I face out in East Hampton is scheduling people's personal schedules with their financial commitments, with their what we call the treasure chests, the 1031 exchanges. Everybody out in East Hampton has one. Everybody's doing it. So you have to identify the property, but you have to set up the other 1031 treasure chests. So it's all a scheduling. It's really feels like a business. You got to schedule both attorneys. You got to schedule title. You got to schedule any hard money lenders to show up and their attorneys. And then you have to schedule the 1031s, which are always in Florida or North Carolina or California, not in state. So for me, the hurdles really come on the East End with managing all of those schedules and those busy movements.
Thank you very much. So that is our panel for this evening. Let's give everybody a round of applause that's on stage. So what we'll do now is if anybody has a question for one of the panelists, we welcome some questions. Obviously, we're welcome to network and chat around the room, but if anybody has a specific question, let us know. Pass over the mic. Does anybody have anything that they want to ask one of the panelists?
Somebody has a question. I know they do.
We have one over there.
Check, check. This is not specific to any one panelist, but if someone were to want to get involved with H&G, what's the best way for them to do it?
So you have to come to a meeting and check us out. Thursday morning, 7 a.m. in Hampton Bays, the American Legion. When you come, you're going to see the group that is really sort of brings everything together, right? So if you're really interested in joining, you come to the morning meeting. You get to meet everybody. You get to hear all these stories. You get to really see how the business is done. I think coming up and showing up shows a lot, and showing up to these types of events is great. We have an application and a process, but the team has become truly a family, right? It's become a great thing. So I'm going to let Mike say a few words too.
Thank you. Sorry. And there's also the Quincy Club, which is what tonight is. So we are one seat per profession. We always encourage people to show up. I'm a real estate agent. If you ever go to other, networking groups, they never invite their competitors. And I think it's every week everybody's like, oh my God, who do you want to meet? Oh, I want to meet more real estate agents. Great. Like, okay, I take it to heart. So they can't take my seat. I'm not about to give this up. It's a valuable seat, and I enjoy it very, very much. But that being said, I invite other realtors. But the Quincy Club, if you're a realtor, you can come and participate with this group the same way. So I think that's the important thing.
Yeah, the Quincy Club and what we're doing here tonight is not limited, one seat per profession. Obviously, there's some overlap, but that's what makes everything stronger. We're all here to, be connected through the Hamptons community. So, Jamie, thank you for the question. Anybody else have any other questions?
In terms of property taxes, why are the taxes so low in the Hamptons?
We're going to pass it off to
They're
Chad.
pretty low.
You know how we talked about that mansion tax? So these are the estate taxes.
They get their money somewhere.
Right. These are the estate taxes that are paid on these mansions out here, and they help offset all the costs and all the other taxes that people in Southampton would normally have to pay. That Brookhaven has to pay, maybe Riverhead has to pay, but it really has to do with the estate section of East Hampton and Southampton.
Anybody else? Questions? Oh, sorry, Lana.
So we've talked quite a bit about the micro environment and individual deals, but I'd love to hear from you all's perspective, sort of what you're seeing at the macro level, what's happening in the market, what's changing out here. If you're a real estate investor, what should you be watching for your next purchase?
It's a great question.
So if I get this right, on a macro level, what's changing out here? So leaving politics aside, unfortunately, this country, the rich keep getting richer, poor not doing as well. There's a lot of money that's, most of our deal flow comes from the city or high net worth individuals abroad. That has continued to be the case out here. The high end, beachfront, larger properties are just gapping higher every month. So that trend has not ended. It continues to filter down. So the market's bid. I've had somebody today say to me that, sorry, there you are. That somebody today, like, oh, I'm just going to wait. The market's going to come my way. Like, no, it just doesn't. Nope, it just doesn't. Sorry. And if you feel that way, I'm not your guy. So I'm sorry. Is that okay?
I'd just like to expand on that a little bit. I think what Mike is trying to say is when you see a deal, jump it. If it's not your dream deal, jump it. Because out here it is competitive, it is hot, it is heated, and it's constantly being bid up, bid up, bid up. So if you get a deal that you think, and you're wishy-washy on it, and you're trying to press the other side, I want this, I want this, you're not gonna win. Jump on the deals out here.
To tie along with that, we always say it in the office, but yeah, I don't know if it's connected, but marry the house, right with Chad, what Chad was saying, marry the house, date the rate. Interest rates the past month and a half have not been friendly. They've been going on the up and up, and then we get a little bit of relief, and then it goes right back. However, the house won't always be there. If you could physically make it happen or financially make it happen to get into the house, do the repairs, hold on to those holding costs, and weather the storm. The rates will eventually come down. You refinance, you could do whatever, and then that payment becomes much more feasible. And if it's an investment property, when the property does become available to rent, if you've done the repairs and changes, you could charge a little extra for the time being for that rent, and then once you do the refinance, you could always restructure that lease agreement.
Thanks. All right, I got another question over here.
Hello. I would just want to ask two questions. Who is your ideal client, and what makes green company marketing different than other agencies in the Hamptons? Thank you.
What was the question about marketing? Sorry.
What is the difference between your company? What makes a difference than other companies, other marketing companies?
So,
Who's your ideal client?
And who's your ideal client?
There was kind of two questions. Ideal
Yeah, I
client. So ideal client is someone's got. It's easy to joke and say someone's got a lot of money. It's someone that's that has knowledge and understanding of real estate. Like that's the ideal client. I'm happy to hold people's hands. Happy to just guide them through a conversation and get them from A to B. People that have done this before, they're experienced investors. And that's everybody. That's the easiest win, because then they'll listen to you if you provide sound advice, they'll listen to you. If that answers that. Then as far as from a marketing perspective, I would just I think so for this group, this room, H&G Hamptons Networking Group, we all support each other. We help each other. Flying Point Media has been instrumental in really kind of changing the way that we get our name out there. And no one, to my knowledge, nobody's doing anything even remotely close to what we're doing in this room right now. And it's a win. Like, everybody's benefiting. We're all making money off it. But we're also, more important than that, believe it or not, is just the camaraderie and the support structure, so that end users, clients that utilize our services really get the best bang for their buck.
Yeah, in addition to that, like an ideal client is just somebody that's organized and responsive. Whether it's a first-time home buyer or an experienced investor, just somebody that's going to be, if you reach out with a question or, hey, I need this document for the underwriter or processor's requesting it, somebody that's not going to take 3 or 4 days just to get back to you, just responsive and organized is ideal, because we work with anybody, first-time home buyers, like I said, to investors. So
So one of the first things is really to go to you to find out what you can spend. And then the second part is going to be going then to the real estate agent. I really don't like this mic. And yeah, I'm gonna. So, but you go to the real estate agent afterwards, and then you'd be going to your lawyer to see if this is actually something feasible, because it's all the other hidden costs that you've got there that you got to figure out. Because if you can't afford it, you're going to be looking at something that is so out of reach that you get frustrated. And so it's always best to find out how much money you can get, and then add that 10% on, because that's what the closing costs are going to be. And everybody goes there, and if you don't have 10%, so if you're going after a house that's $1.1 million, that's 10% of that. That's $110,000 you have to close the place. That's maybe. It could be even more.
Perfect client is the person who recognizes what they don't know, and trusts others and puts the people in the right place to help them through what they don't know and gain that knowledge. What makes H&G different than the other networking groups in the Hamptons, having experienced them firsthand, H&G puts our money back in our pocket. Look at this. This is directly related to us who are investing in this group, and the money gets turned around directly back to us to market ourselves, to promote ourselves, to continue to grow our group. There's no national network taking a cut. There's no processor taking a cut. This is us. A lot of us volunteer our time to keep it going, and because we love it, it's a community, and we recognize the potential for our growth here as compared to other networking groups.
Great. Hang on, I got, oh, geez. I have another question. One more question.
One more question.
One more
please.
question.
All right, gonna close this out here. So markets tend to be cyclical. History tends to repeat itself. Long Island sometimes, especially the Hamptons, seems to be the exception to the rule. You guys talk about the Hamptons are booming and growing, and is there an end in sight for you guys, or what do you guys see for the future in the next 2 to 5 years of Hamptons real estate?
You always have to keep in mind that you're competing against the CPF. So the Community Preservation Fund is right now has got about $750 million in it. Every time there's a transaction out here, that money goes into that fund. So it's 2.5% of the purchase price. It's a $10 million home. It's approximately $250,000. Boom, goes in. So they're constantly retiring land. They're constantly, if there's an old house that sits between two nice pieces of land, they'll buy that. If there's so much money now, if you look at, I wish there was a Bloomberg. I love Bloomberg. I wish there was a Bloomberg app for real estate in the Hamptons, because I would love to graph it, because basically you look at a graph of the Hamptons and it's really goes up and then levels off, and goes up and then levels off. Even when financial demise, 2008, I think the sell-off was like 10 or 15%, and then I bought my house in my current house, 2011, and it's almost quadrupled in value. Like, at the end of the day, that's it. Sorry.
Climate change. I think we've focused on it a lot. I think the next big thing for East Hampton is the change of the FEMA maps. I think that's going to drive a lot of change out here that not a lot of us expect, because with the FEMA maps come expansion of wetland protections and everything else. So for me, climate change is going to be the major changer out here. Real estate out here is always going to go up, but when you change FEMA maps, you start getting insurance involved, you start getting all that stuff. It starts taking away what people have to invest.
All right, we got one more question. This time I mean it.
This is just following up on what this gentleman was saying before about, the Hamptons kind of seem to be immune to any kind of cyclical downturn. I've been out here for 25 years, and I keep saying it's never going to get busier. This is the busiest summer. Like, the traffic can't get worse, and then the next summer it's worse. At what point do we hit a saturation point where we just can't take any more people? Where the idea of going to the country, I love when people from the city, say they're going to the Hamptons, they call it the country. It used to be the country, it's not the country anymore. At what point do we lose that feeling that people originally came out here and have been coming out here for decades, for 100 years, because they wanted to escape things. They wanted the beach, the country, and all that. And now they're dealing with traffic. I mean, you guys must have seen the 4th of July, the 5th of July was a freaking nightmare. Who wants to do that? I love it out here. I'm going to stay out here the rest of my life. But I'd love to hear from the experts as to when are we reaching a saturation point where all of this, the draw of the Hamptons doesn't become a draw anymore because we've got too many people?
I think that this year happens to be one of those cyclical things that everything aligned really, really well with a lot of traffic. We had road construction on Shinnecock Canal. We had the Open. We have now the Hampton Classic. The president just came through, or the vice president just came through here today. That just screwed everybody up. And that was a good, I'd say, another 2 hours. I was in the building department and nobody was there. It was dead at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I had to wait another hour before they all came in. So we're going through a situation right now where I think it's just really a lot of traffic is coming out here. Also, it's not so much the people that own, it's the people that rent. We're getting a lot of renters that come out. August is by far our worst month that you can imagine. And I agree 100%. How much worse could it be? But yes, this year it's disgusting. Perfect storm.
I just want to just add real quick. I do think that over the past last summer, this summer, and maybe I don't foresee it going too far into the future, but I do think that influencer effect of trying to draw all the attention of these big name people on social media. Hey, I'm going to this club or this bounce or whatever it may be this upcoming weekend, or these DJs where that's bringing in people that necessarily wouldn't have been out here that weekend, or like the 4th of July, and it's just and I think that fad will dilute itself over the next summer or two, because it doesn't make sense for these out-of-towners that are just coming in for and taking that long trip. I think they're going to get tired of it after a year or two, and then it'll settle back down to what we would probably recognize 5 to 10 years ago.
We also have a lot of wars in Eastern Europe, et cetera. The world's a little wonky right now, and people not traveling this year. Rentals are hugely up, which has made it incredibly more problematic. This particular season, every year. So the only argument I would make against what you're saying is that they keep retiring land. They keep the building department's been very slow at issuing new permits. Thank you. And so it is problematic. I would argue that 10 months of the year it's absolutely magical here. And for 2 months of the year, when everybody really wants to be here, pick and choose your times to travel.
But you guys aren't making your money on the 10 months of the year.
I'm making money year round on whether you. It is what it is. But yeah, no, I feel bad for people that try to commute out.
There's more money to be made in the 10 months, actually 11 months out of the year. There's more money to be made in the 11 months out of the year than the last one.
Want to be out here for the 2 months. Without the 2 months, nobody's going to be paying for it. Nobody's out here buying in the 10 months if they don't have the 2 months. If the 2 months isn't special, if June, July, and August aren't special, then
Well, okay, so I'm gonna. I was born in Nassau County, and I kind of moved out here, and I was born in 1960, and I used to come out here as a little boy, and this was all farmland, and I loved it. And my neighbors, they had cabana rights to Georgia Association, which I didn't even know that they existed, but we were able to go to Georgia Beach on the pond side. And it was great. And then my parents retired out here in 1975. I've seen a lot of change, and I never thought in my wildest dreams that this area was going to become what it became. When somebody would say, "Where were you from?" I'd say Eastern Long Island. I would never say exactly, because they wouldn't know it. And now it's a household name. Oh, you come from the Hamptons. We've created our own nightmare. It's not the people that live here, it's the people that are buying into here. So, and we're also the ones that rely upon them to feed me. I mean, that's how you're going to get your boat. I already have mine. Mike's going to get his car. You're going to get your bigger house. You're going to get some really great people out of this whole deal. We all prosper from that hellhole of 2 months. And that's just the way that it is. And it's not, I don't think it's going to change that much. Hopefully it might simmer down by 10%, but I think that this year was that perfect storm. And I'm praying, and I agree with you. I mean, it was murderous trying to get from point A to point B.
Thanks. All right, we're going to close it.
Hold
We're
on,
gonna clo-
let me just jump on this. Sir, I would say that this is a voter situation. The towns and really held on the mini level here at town. It's about showing up to town hall. It's about voting on restrictions on Airbnbs, on ownership by mega corporations. It's about taking a stand against what you think is happening here, and it's showing up, and it's being there, and it's voicing your opinion on it. So, you know, you show up, the towns are doing what they can. They're trying to put on 14-day limits for these things, so we're not getting pounded every weekend. They're doing what they can. And so on a level for us out here to maintain the Hamptons look, there's got to be a balance. As we were discussing here, we rely on it for money, let's be honest. But we also want to keep it going, and that's part of what you're saying there. And I would say it's a local town issue, and that everybody is focusing on it. The towns aren't ignoring it. They're listening to the people, but it takes a lot to get people together to say, hey, and especially when a lot of those people that are going to be forced out of home ownership are the mega corporations with the most money.
So I'm going to do a couple quick closing things, but let's give a round of applause again for the panel. If you are not a member of H&G or not a member of the Quincy Club, please approach one of the members anywhere, and they will tell you how profound and impactful this group is. And just keep in mind, 3 years ago in 2023, the idea for Quincy Club started, and it was first initially, we're going to have a dinner for 3 to 5 professionals at Bobby Van's in the middle of the winter. And now look at what we created. So let's give a round of applause to each and everybody here, network, and thank you very much.
And if you haven't already, if you guys could just scan the QR codes. We're just trying to take registration for everyone in the room. We're going to be just sending some follow-up. If you guys can share what your thoughts were of this, what other types of events you would like to see, it's going to be really helpful. So there's QR codes around, so appreciate you coming out. Thanks.
Thank you so much.